as I sit down to film, there's the airplane. It is what it is. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some palettes that I feel are extremely underrated. Some of these brands are well known. You've definitely heard of them before, and some of them you have not. There is 2 palettes in here that are so cheap. We're talking each palette cost less than $5 and literally blew my mind. I'm wearing one of them on my eyes right now, and I'm just like shocked that these palettes are as cheap as they are. And you know what? Let's start with a bang. Let's start with those first from Essence. These are their little tiny 6-pan shadow palettes. Now, I actually ordered these from Ulta during, I think it was like an early Black Friday sale that they had. I have the Bronzed This Way palette and the Coral Me Maybe palette. This is so cute. But this one right here is the one that I have on my eyes right now. And I am telling you, when I used this the first time, I was completely blown away. If you watched yesterday's video where I showcased a $125 Pat McGrath Mothership palette, this palette I think I paid $2.75 for. Blends easier and went on the eyes better and wears longer and has better pigmentation, which is absolutely insane, but that's what I'm talking about. Makeup does not always have to be expensive to be fantastic. These 2 palettes are perfect if you are someone who is on a budget, or if you just simply don't feel like spending a shit ton of money on makeup, or if you just want a little bit of shadow here. Maybe you don't wear a lot of eyeshadow, but you'd like to have a pop of color here and there. This is perfect. I mean, you can't beat the price point. There is other color stories as well, so there's more than just these 2. I think there may be 2 or 3 other palettes. They even have a cool toned one, a purple toned one that's like blue shades, I believe. There's even little mirrors on the inside. The shadow quality in here is just mind-blowing for the cost. The compacts are super cute. They don't feel cheapy or anything, and I just absolutely love them. I've said recently that I'm just into smaller palettes lately. It's easier to create a look. I don't feel overwhelmed. I feel a lot less wasteful when it comes to the shades. Like, I feel like I could actually open up these palettes and use every single shade, and then I'm not wasting anything, and it just makes life a little bit easier. So these are fantastic. I would even say these are 10 times better than the e.l.f. bite-sized palettes. These are just so good. Moving on to the next palette. Now, this one is from Huda Beauty. Huda Beauty is by no means underrated in any way, shape, or form, but this particular palette right here, I just feel like more people did not talk enough about. This is the Naughty palette. I did review this palette on my channel on its own, so check that out if you would like to, but this color story is just absolutely breathtaking. I think that this is Huda's best palette yet. I don't know what it is. There is just something so sultry and romantic and just beautiful in here. The shades swatch beautifully. This was my first Huda Beauty palette, and it just blew me away. It has made me want to try so many more of her palettes. If you've wanted to try her palettes, I think that this one would be a perfect starting point for you. The shades are extremely wearable. Any skin tone can pull these off. You can create daytime looks, nighttime looks, sexy, sultry looks, you name it. I absolutely love the packaging. Beautiful mirror on the inside. I just feel like this palette was just not talked about enough. It is so good. I would say it's actually one of my all-time favorite eyeshadow palettes. All-time favorite eyeshadow palettes. Let's move on to a brand that I wish got a lot more love. Now, I do see more and more people talking about this brand, not on a large scale, but I do think their name is getting out there a bit more. I am talking about Kaleidos. I have a ton of their palettes. They have been so kind to send me a lot of their items, but these 2 right here are my absolute favorite. First off, how fun is this packaging? This one right here is the Flower Punk palette. It is so beautiful from the packaging to the shades inside. The whole top part comes off so you can actually hold the mirror how you would like it to. Look at these shades. How unique is this? Look at these metallic shades. So incredibly stunning. When you swatch these, you will literally be blown away. The mattes are so incredibly buttery smooth. They blend beautifully, and the color stories that they come up with are just so unique and beautiful. This one right here is the Club Nebula palette. This palette packaging is a little bit more chunky, but I swear it's almost like an art piece. You want to have it on display. Look at these shades. Now, typically, I'm not into blues, but the blue shades that are in here are almost more like teal-ish, a little bit more on the green side. There's duochromes in here. I mean, look at this shade right here. Oh my goodness. I mean, absolutely breathtaking. I feel like if you are sick of seeing the same type of eyeshadow palette over and over and over again, and you're like, please give me something different, serve me with something more, you need to check out Kaleidos. All of their color stories are just so interesting and unique. Even some of their more neutral palettes, they just have a different touch to them. And it's not just the packaging, it's just the fact that they include so much dimension in their shadows. So understated, so incredibly beautiful. I cannot recommend Kaleidos enough, especially if you love color. Let's talk about another brand that, again, I know most of us have probably heard of, but I don't think people really realize how good it actually is. The Alter Ego palettes. Now, they make dupes for pretty much every Natasha Denona palette. They are just stunning. I have reviewed so many of these on my channel before. I think that this is a dupe for the Glam palette, I believe, but the formula in this one is just like, oh my goodness, so fantastic. The mattes, again, blend with ease, super easy to use. The metallics pack a punch, and they're under 20 bucks. You can't beat that. So if you can't afford the more expensive Natasha Denona palettes and you want to get your hands on something like that, or even if you can afford it, but you just don't want to spend $60 to $120 on an eyeshadow palette, but you like the color story, you get the drift. Check out Alter Ego. They have a ton of different palettes, and they also have incredible eyeshadow brushes and brushes in general. Their brushes are chef's kiss. Some of the best affordable brushes I've ever used. So good. Speaking of Natasha Denona, I do have to give a little bit of love to the bronze palette. Now, yes, there are dupes for her palettes, but I will say that the formula really can't be beat. This palette in particular, this was my first Natasha palette, a larger one. I've had some of her minis before, but this was my first larger Natasha palette, and the second I used this, I fell in absolute love. The metallics are so freaking good in here. They almost have micro reflex of glitter in them. When you put them on the eyes, they just have this reflect that is just like none other. This formula really truly does stand out. It really does. I can't think of many shadows that perform like this at all. I absolutely love the mattes. They are true to color, what you see in the pan, super long wearing, and just so worth the money. So worth the money if you can swing it. Now let's move on to a brand that most of you probably have not heard of. This is a brand called Odin's Eye. They're a little bit more of an indie brand. I believe they're out of Sweden, if memory serves me correct. Their palettes are absolutely stunning. Look at this color story. The packaging is beautiful. The formulas are fantastic. Kind of remind me of Kaleidos in the fact that like their metallic shades are just a little bit more interesting. Like they have like a duochrome-ish effect to them. They're very glittery, not chunky glitter, more like micro reflex of glitter, I should say. They just have a little bit more to them. More interesting color stories. I can't even pronounce the names of the palettes. I think this one is Solmain, if I'm saying it correctly. And then this one right here is Freya. And let me show you this one. Look how beautiful this is. This is just soft, romantic shades. Love these shades if you love more rosy, warm tones. This is absolutely beautiful. But again, they incorporate some of these more interesting duochrome shades in here and metallics that actually have more dimension. The packaging is absolutely beautiful. Super pretty packaging, and they're just really good eyeshadow palettes. Definitely a brand that I think out of everything I've shown is talked about the least and definitely needs more love. The next palette is from Sigma. Now, I actually just started using Sigma palettes, I want to say about a year and a half ago. I got the Corte Rosa palette and I was like, oh my goodness, this formula is so freaking good. Why does no one talk about these palettes? This is the Ambiance palette. And I believe this one launched this year, but if you love neutrals, there is just something that is straight up pure neutral golden hour vibes. This is just beautiful. I love this palette. Every time I think about doing like a neutral look for myself, like a true brown neutral look, the first thing that pops in my mind now is this Ambiance palette right here, and it really does give some ambiance. The shades are just beautiful. I love the dimension. I think the theme with all of these palettes is that they have their basic mattes, but they include other finishes as well that keep it interesting. It's not just metallic and mattes. They have some satin shades. They have shades with micro reflexive glitter, topper shades, things that look glassy and mirror-like. They just raise the bar a bit and include different finishes and dimensions that you just don't typically find in a lot of other eyeshadow palettes. Despite the fact of how saturated the market is, these all just pack a little bit of a unique punch and make it that much more worth your money. I would love to hear from you guys. Let me know if there are any palettes that you use yourself that you're just like shocked that more people don't talk about, more people don't use. Do you own some of these more obscure brands like Odin's Eye and Kaleidos? Have you tried these brands before? And you're like me, you're like, how and why do people not talk about these? I would love to hear your opinions. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to hit the thumbs up button. It helps me out a lot. Helps the algorithm, lets me know that you are enjoying the content. If you are new here and you haven't already, please consider subscribing before you go. I would definitely appreciate it. I just want to say, as always, I love you guys so much, and I look forward to seeing you in tomorrow's video. Mwah. Bye, guys.